You ever have one of those days where time just feels off? Like it's dragging or flying by, but you can't figure out why? We usually chalk that up to being tired or busy, something happening inside our own heads. But what if it's not? What if it's something outside? We're about to dive into a pretty wild scientific protocol that asks a really radical question. Can the very air you're breathing right now actually change how you perceive time?
So, here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll get right to the heart of the main question. Then, we'll become detectives and look at the two key clues scientists are gathering, one from the air and one from us. After that, we'll see how they try to connect those clues, how they build a solid foundation for their work, and finally, and this is super important, what this study very carefully claims and what it absolutely doesn't.
All right, let's start with this basic idea. We've all got this little clock ticking away inside of us, right? An internal metronome that helps us feel the passing of a few seconds or a few minutes. But this whole line of research asks us to wonder, is that metronome really in a soundproofed room? Or can the environment around us sneak in and start messing with the tempo? And here it is. This is the big question, laid out as plainly as possible. Now I know, it sounds like something straight out of science fiction, but this isn't just a cool thought experiment. It's actually a testable hypothesis at the center of a super rigorous scientific plan. You know this feeling, right? You just know when a commercial break has gone on too long, or when a pause in a conversation feels awkward. That's your internal clock at work. It's a huge part of how we experience the world. But the crazy idea here is that maybe that clock has an antenna, picking up these really subtle signals from everything around us. And this is where things get really fascinating. We're not talking about a vague feeling or some kind of metaphor. The scientific protocol we're looking at spells out a super precise way to test this. It's designed to see if the actual physical stuff in the air, all that dust, aerosols, tiny biological bits, can be linked to real, measurable changes in how we experience time. Okay, so if you're going to solve a mystery this big, you need clues. And in this investigation, the scientists are collecting two totally different types of evidence. One is from the world of physics. It's all about measuring the air itself. And the other is from psychology, measuring what's going on inside our heads. So to get our heads around that first clue, let's try a simple analogy. Just picture a pulse of light that's incredibly short and perfect. Think of it like a single, sharp clap in a huge, empty concert hall. It's clean, it's crisp, it's unmistakable. Okay, now what happens when that perfect little light pulse travels through the air we actually live in? Air that's full of dust and pollen and all sorts of other tiny particles. Well, it gets scattered all over the place. Some bits of light arrive a little later than others. That perfect signal gets blurred. It gets smeared out over time. That crisp clap is now all muffled and drawn out like you just tried to clap in a room stuffed full of pillows. So this whole smearing effect, well, it actually has a formal name, temporal transfer. It's just the fancy way of saying it's the process where a medium, in this case the air, grabs a sharp signal and literally stretches it out over time. And this protocol is designed to measure that stretching with incredible precision. So to actually put a number on all of this, the researchers came up with two key scores. On one side, you have the TII, the Temporal Transfer Index. That's the number that tells you what the air is doing to the light. And on the other side, you have the TPI, the Temporal Perception Index. That's the number that tells you what's going on with a person's sense of time. One measures the air, the other measures us. Now, what's really cool is how they build this TII score. It's not just one measurement. It's actually a composite score that looks at three different things. First, how much that light pulse gets widened or broadened. Second, the mathematical shape of its leftover tail. And third, any weird color effects, which they call chromaticity. You put them all together, and you get this really detailed fingerprint of the air's unique temporal signature. So that's the air. What about us? How on earth do you measure someone's internal clock? Well, you use these cleverly designed psychological tasks, like asking them to judge whether a sound they hear is short or long. But here's the really cool part. They also track the person's pupils and their blinks, because those tiny little movements can give you a surprisingly good idea of how focused and attentive they are. All right, so now we have our two main characters, right? We have the TII, that fingerprint of the air, and we have the TPI, that measurement of our own time perception. The next most logical step for any detective is to see if these two things are actually connected. So the real question, the heart of the matter, is this. The study isn't just looking at one snapshot in time. It's looking for a relationship over time. If the air's signature, the TII, changes from Monday to Tuesday, does a person's time perception, their TPI, also change in a way you can predict? That little triangle, the delta symbol, that's all it means, change. Whoa, okay, lots of Greek letters. Don't panic. This equation might look a little intimidating, but the idea behind it is actually pretty simple. This is the statistical tool that does the detective work. Its main job is to see if a change in the air, that delta TI, really does predict a change in our perception, the delta TPI. That's the alpha part. All the other stuff is just the model being extra careful, filtering out all the other possible explanations to make sure the connection isn't just a coincidence. And when I say other explanations, I mean everything. The model is designed to control for so much stuff, like changes in the lighting, the amount of regular old air pollution, the temperature, the humidity. It even takes into account how much sleep someone got the night before and how alert they say they feel. It's all about trying to isolate that one potential signal from all the background noise of daily life. But a great investigation isn't just about what you find out in the world. To really understand the clues you're finding, you need something to compare them against. You need a solid baseline, like a reference library for time signatures. And get this, the protocol is this incredible three-part thing. First, you've got the main field study with people in Israel. Then there's a whole lab component where they analyze these unique biological samples from the Negev desert to get their pure, unadulterated optical fingerprints. And if that wasn't enough, there's also a pilot study with insects, just to test the basic ideas in a much simpler system. It's so comprehensive. Okay, now we're at what is maybe the most important part of understanding this entire project, what it actually claims to be doing. You can tell how good a piece of science is by how careful it is and by the limits it sets for itself. And this is so important to get. This protocol is designed to answer one question, and one question only. Do these two things change together? That's called an association. It is explicitly 100% not designed to say the air causes your time perception to change. Finding a link is the first step. Explaining the link is a whole other journey. And check out these rules they set for themselves. This is what shows you the real integrity behind the science. They say flat out, associations only, no claiming we proved causation. We're not claiming we found some new magical substance in the air. And get this, finding NO link at all, what they call a null result, is a totally acceptable and still very valuable scientific outcome. And to top it off, they're making all their data and code public so anyone can check their work. That's how you build trust. So we end up right back where we started, but with a much bigger, more profound question. This whole protocol is really about creating the tools to even begin looking for an answer. It's suggesting that the environment isn't just a passive backdrop to our lives, but an active medium with its own incredibly complex signature, one that's written in the language of time. And it just leaves you wondering, what else is written out there that we just haven't learned how to read yet?